I think firstly for me it was about establishing a culture or an environment where people feel, the staff feel that they are able to take risks with their own learning and be learners themselves, and so that whole, and that takes time, so that they feel they can learn from each other. I reckon as a leader, one of my jobs is to filter and clear the decks a bit so that teachers can really focus on what's really important around the teaching and learning. Our cohort of students here are generally pretty successful. Their results are good, but I just thought that there was no reason why these students shouldn't be really flying with what they were doing, and so what I did was put up some data around comparative data with other like schools for staff, and so while we know they're doing okay, suddenly it was, well, maybe we can do a bit more.
For many of our families, they do live in very close family contexts, and so very often for the preschool children this is the first opportunity that they have been outside of the family, and maybe the first opportunity where families have engaged in conversations with professionals outside of their family home. So really that's why it's so important to build those relationships so you can have the conversations and open up that trust between the family and the centre.
Student has their own laptop. So students have access 24/7 to our school's website, which means they can access DayMap and see instantly when we put results up. So what happens is if we have the results up there, the students are thinking, oh, how am I going? What's happening with that? When we look at the improving student outcomes, the use that we have for DayMap is that it's very transparent. So teachers of a student that might be struggling in their class can actually see how they're going in other classes and have conversations with the teachers that they have, so that they can find out strategies that are working or that they use for them in their particular class to move that student forward. And because a lot of them are very competitive with themselves, they set themselves really high goals, and so they want to keep checking to see how they're going with the summative assessment tasks, because that's what we use that for.
Looking at the data, we did use the process of discipline dialogue, and we did that to focus the conversations and to also try and reduce the amount of discounting that can go on with conversations around data. And particularly in the early stages, that was really important because teachers hadn't heavily engaged with data and evidence and research, and so that brought around a significant shift. So the discipline dialogue was really useful in that sense. We put up a data wall 12 months into my time here, and it's really important because I think the culture had to be right to accept that. And that was rather confronting and challenging when people saw the whole school picture around where children were at in their learning in terms of reading, and quite confronting. But to the staff's credit, and I think they're fantastic, they've actually taken the challenge on board and are working really hard, and that's sort of brought about work in differentiation of learning, whole site agreements in literacy, and we're working towards that in numeracy as well. But we've actually targeted areas for development and going deeply and making sure that we do things well. On the data walls, for instance, there's anecdotes now from the children, and the culture that's developed because of it is about personal best and challenge, which is really great, and the kids really feel very, very strongly and proud of their growth. Doesn't matter whether they're involved with 1, 2 or 3 learners, they feel very, very strongly about their learning and their achievement, and they can articulate it really well.